Well met, everyone. I am Rich the Lich. It has been a little bit of time. Hello, everyone. How have you all been? I hope everyone has been well. This is a very important video. This is a video that talks about what has occurred, where my mind has gone, especially creatively, personally, in the last month and a half or so, and where I plan and see the channel going moving forward into 2020. You see, we don't just have a new year coming up, it's a new decade. So what better time to start fresh? There's a bunch of orders of business. First and foremost, the single most important thing is I'm asking a big favor of all of you, please. I am going to be changing the YouTube channel. Not just the sort of flow and the type of content, but the actual name of the YouTube channel itself. You see, I'm a designer. I've been a designer, and I've been someone that has tried to find a brand for a very long time. I've had a YouTube channel based on my name, which is Richard Cologne. I will put a link in the description as to how you can easily, quickly, and efficiently find that YouTube channel. That is the new channel that I am asking all of you, my audience here on All Things Lich, to please now subscribe to. I will no longer, after this video, be posting anything on All Things Lich. I'm going to let sort of the name and the label, the brand, if you will, to die out and just slowly fade away. Why am I doing this? Let me give you a little bit of backstory and a little bit of history. And I think some of this might indicate why I'm sort of brainstorming where I'm going with the channel and why I want to go and put everything on one simple fact. The brand is me. What you're here for, yes, of course, I understand that there's reviews and you appreciate my kind of no BS approach and maybe the method through my madness of how I go through those various reviews from DM's Guild and otherwise, sponsored or not. And I know that you might appreciate kind of my rambling and my talking on how to be a better DM and just my tips and tricks and advice and suggestions from being in this wonderful hobby for 35 plus years. But I think when I really look back on it, I look at Matt Colville, right? Someone that's very elegant with his words and can say a lot. And his YouTube channel is quite simply just his name. Everything that I do, everything I am as a creative individual stems from my life experiences and who I am and what I've done. The other thing is 10, 12 years ago, I had a clothing line, a company. And as I started to allow the brand, or not allow, but as I worked to make the brand blow up and become more than it was, I spent a ton of time behind the scenes just trying to come up with clever words and neat logos. And I mean, I've done a lot of logo design. I've done a lot of brand development. I've tried to come up with a lot of clever, interesting ways of identifying all of a given set of content and putting it under a certain label. And I got a cease and desist letter because it was a little confusingly similar. And I know out there already, and perhaps even before my channel came out, there's things out there like All Things D&D. And the point is, I don't want to have to deal with, as I start to move forward and I start to brand this stuff and I start to delve into other options, whether it's start throwing out some swag and some t-shirts and just some cool bits out there and stickers or whatever the hell it is I create. I don't ever want to have anyone, anything, any entity, company, business come back to me and Disney, Marvel approach it, or whatever you want to call it, Nintendo it, as they say. Two companies that are very harsh and really strict on their IPs and their properties and say, hey, you can't use that. You know, your name sounds like our name. So I'm going to put everything and brand it under my name, my YouTube, Richard Cologne. That's who I am. And interestingly, I started all of these D&D videos on Richard Cologne before I ever made All Things Lich. Right now, there's nothing on that channel other than a fitness-related video because I kind of deleted those things and I'm starting over and rehashing that work that was on there. But I had a good 10 to 12 D&D, just like the stuff you see on All Things Lich. That was all on Richard Cologne on my YouTube channel named under Richard Cologne before it was ever on All Things Lich. So that was what I started with, but I just thought, you know what, that's not clever enough. That's not interesting enough. No one's going to follow that. It doesn't have a cool, clever label, and there's no awesome Lich-looking D&D logo. It doesn't scream D&D. And I think that's where I want to talk through a little bit why it's a smooth transition into why I'm going where I'm going. For those that are diligent in following my channel here on All Things Lich, you have seen that there's been a lull. There's been a good 3-week period. That was a very necessary time where, coinciding with all of my other family members having off of work and being off of school and whatnot, that I thought, you know what, everyone is off the clock, so to speak. And it was wonderful and liberating and comforting to be able to not have to worry about turning on any lights and setting things up and pressing a record button, and just live, exist, sleep, wake up when we wake up, and just eat food and have fun and be with family. I started to, in the time off and the time away from YouTube, I played a lot of video games. I read some books. I got a lot of work done. 10, 12 pages of fully fleshed out writing on some outlines for an upcoming novel that I've wanted to write a book for 30 years, right? And I started on a 4-world D&D 5th edition adventure. And notice what I'm talking about. The book I'm reading is The Name of the Wind, Patrick Rothfuss. And the video games I'm playing is Blizzardy stuff and messed around with a little bit of Divinity 2. And the book I'm writing is a fantasy young adult type novel, whatever, right? Everything there still ties into Dungeons & Dragons. And those are the types of things that I'm into that form the foundation upon which I set my D&D roots. How I am at the table, my social aspects, and how I can convey a certain image, and how I can bring about atmosphere and tell a story. How I can cat herd, as one of my players says it, with playing 9-10 players and wrangle people in and facilitate. All of those things don't come from D&D. Yes, if you want to get better at push-ups, you do push-ups. If you want to get better at running, you run. If you want to get better at art, you need to draw. So there's a very specific approach to things. You want to get better at D&D, play more. But creativity can never be stifled and narrowed into one niche sort of thing. I'm a creative, artistic, design-based individual. I like to think of myself as a wannabe Renaissance man. Now, will you all see the same content, the same level and depth of content as I talk about Dungeons and Dragons? You will. That is going to move forward in 2020. But there's going to be more. I've talked about it a little bit in the past, and I maybe even dabbled into it in a video or two. I'm also a video gamer. I'm an artist. Yes, I'm a designer, but where does a designer and a creative individual get his inspiration? Is it just by flipping through the DMG and thinking about new monsters? You know, interestingly, I may take a walk and a hike and see a long stretch of dirt and dead flowers. And that is all I need. That's the spark to start putting my head in this Curse of Strahd space for whatever reason. You're going to see me in multiple environments. You're going to see me dabbling into different things because they're the things that make me up. They make me the creative individual that I am. And by default, when you spend 20% of your waking hours focusing on reading, involved in Dungeons & Dragons, reading Dungeons & Dragons, watching Dungeons & Dragons, playing Dungeons & Dragons, preparing for Dungeons & Dragons, there's going to be a lot of Dungeons & Dragons. But I miss other role-playing games as well that are not D&D. I miss going to old used bookstores and stuff like this and browsing through 3rd edition versions. And I don't want to confine as it seemingly has been, especially with like a DM's Guild thing, right? Because DM's Guild is very focused on a 5th edition D&D rule set. And I want to be able to have a little bit of a smoother transition into just creating a channel that's so much more focused on the things that I'm into and presenting it in a method that hopefully all of you, my prospective audience, latches onto, but creating a channel that's focused on how to just be a creative, design, artistic hobbyist in whatever that hobby and whatever those passions are. Because I don't believe you can ever separate one from another. They all mesh together and they all form who you are at the table. They form the type of person you are. At the end of the day, we work. People ask me all the time, how the hell do you run Dungeons and Dragons for 10 players? And why would you start it in 5th edition when it came out in 2014. Why do you keep starting these new campaigns and not just simply saying, hey guys, let's split the group up and let's maybe play one group of 5 on Saturday and one on Sunday? Or, you know what, you guys are not really into it as much. I'm going to have you guys take a step back on this campaign. I really want to run Curse of Strahd. I really want to run Avernus, but not so many players. No, what I do is I say, I'm going to convert Avernus into 10 people. And people are always enamored, whether it's friends, people that I've talked with on message boards and all these other things. How do you wrangle that in? And you know what it is? It isn't my experience as a dungeon master. Yes, that's a huge component of it because I have to know what my strengths and weaknesses are. But most importantly, it's knowing your strengths and weaknesses. What are you as a person good at? What are you as a person weak at? Not in the D&D space, just overall. Because at the end of the day, it's myself and my 10 players, and we're buying into each other's personalities. One inevitable thing with 10 players is there's going to be a lot of crosstalk, right? One person's trying to say something, but 3 people are having a conversation over here. You have a lot more of that chaos. But the respect comes about and shit gets done, quite simply because everyone understands and respects each other as a human being, because that's the people we are. Everything that I've rambled about for the last 15-ish minutes or so is just simply telling you that where this channel is wherever the hell I want it to go. Creatively, artistically, and design-wise. I am Richard Colon, and this will be my new channel. And that's where I want to see that subscriber base jump up to at least the subscriber base here. Whenever it is that you watch this video, jump over to there, because that's where the D&D content, that's where the reviews, that's where all the same stuff you've gotten, but also that's just where you're going to get more of me. And a big part of me is drinking that coffee, so it's coffee time. Thanks everyone. I'll see you guys later.